Now watch Core TV News live from anywhere in the world on our website www.coretvnews.com. Click on Live TV on our website and watch us live.
And welcome to Core TV Primetime News.
To follow us on Twitter, click on Twitter icon on our website. On Facebook, click on the Facebook and YouTube to see all our previous news production. You can also watch us live on YouTube. Click Core TV, leave a space, then News. Core TV News, a 24-hour news station.
As a Federal High Court in Abuja adjourns to May 21, the case filed by some PDP lawmakers in Ekiti, of course, stalling the impeachment process against the incumbent governor. Drama also is unfolding at the Enugu State House of Assembly. It all started about 5:30 yesterday in the morning when 14 members of the House of Assembly, later joined by a female, were denied entrance into the complex by armed policemen at the gate. After a few minutes of debates and protests, after more than 30 minutes of deliberations, actually, they were later allowed into the premises, leaving their cars parked by the roadside. Between 6:23 and 6:37 a.m. after forcing themselves into the House chamber, they kick-started the impeachment process against the state governor of Enugu State. And of course, they are of the opinion that he's high-handed, as well as citing some corrupt practices against him. Chime, according to these 15 lawmakers, have been served an impeachment notice. But further drama would ensue later when another set of lawmakers tagged the group of 9 led by the hitherto deputy speaker met, impeached and suspended Odo along with 7 others, and they also this time around impeached the Speaker of the House. Quite amazing drama ensuing from there. You recall also earlier that it was the same State House of Assembly that impeached the Deputy Governor Sunday Oyebuchi. I'm joined on set now by entrepreneur and policy analyst GBOLA, joining us on the show this morning. Thank you very much, sir, for finding time to come.
Thank you very much for the opportunity once again.
What do you make of the happenings at the Enugu State House of Assembly?
We are having the perfection of a malady that is now organically confronting our constitution. Before I go to Enugu, I think it is incumbent on me to give your viewers the general idea, a synoptic or a summary of the general idea of the nature of the constitution we're on. We run a presidential system of government. In the presidential system of government, there are 3 major arms of government. The 3 major arms, as they are constituted, are 1, the legislature, which is the arm that makes the law. And apart from making the law, because it's the arm that makes the law, it is also the arm that has oversight function over agencies of the other arms. Now, we also have the executive. In the peculiar constitutional model that we're on, the executive, although is made up by 1,001 personnel, but only 2 people are directly elected. The governor, even let's look at it from the local government level. The chairman at the local government level, at the state, the governor and his deputy, and nationally, the president and the vice president. They are the only 2 elected members of the executive. and all other functionaries of the executive arm of government are appointed by the president. In the case of the legislature, all the members at the state and at the national level, at the state we practice what is called unicameral legislature, one chamber. All states houses of assembly in Nigeria is made up simply, they are all made up of one chamber. And at that point, all the members of that chamber are directly elected. Now, the third arm of government in the kind of system of government that we practice is the judiciary that interprets the laws made by the legislature. The executive, as the name connotes, executes or implements the law, the laws made by the legislature. I therefore want to say with a degree of intellectual conceit that in our polity, the most emblematic arm of representative democracy is the legislature. And the writers of our constitution have also thought it fit, apart from giving the legislature that legislative arm, that law-making duty, to give it the necessary oversight duty to see if what has been legislated is what is being implemented. That is the ideal on paper. Our endemic culture of poverty, I'm choosing my words carefully, our endemic culture of poverty as, and I mean intellectual, material, financial, pecuniary poverty, but more so intellectual and material poverty, has so turned the table now that the executive is almost constituting itself into an ultra one-arm government. And I will give you examples from around. There was a time when Ayofayoshe was just a governor-elect. Because a case or because a cause was going on in the High Court in Ekiti that could, according to his own perception, which ultimately the Supreme Court, even without the use of force now, ruled in his favor, because he thought that his assumption of office was going to be inhibited by that cause. You know what he did? He sent thugs to the court and he ransacked the court. Everybody was beating black and blue. The judge was said to be hiding under the table. And what happened? Nothing happened. Impunity is a very fecund phenomenon. Impunity. When impunity gives birth to the first generation of children and it notices that nobody is questioning its fecundity, it will keep replicating itself. Nothing happened. The agency of state in charge of security, the police, because it is directly controlled by the executive arm of government, and in our peculiar circumstance, because it is directly controlled by the executive arm of government at the national level, and because Fayoshe emerged as governor-elect from the same party as the ultimate controller of that agency, the police looked the other side. Indeed, at the point, the police was practically and literally shielding people from getting access to undertake their actions and whatever in the court. The Ekiti High Court premises was sealed up for almost 2 weeks, or if not more than. Okay, that's behind us. A phenomenon, an untoward phenomenon, that first reared his head when Otumba Gbenga Daniel was the governor of Ogun State, whereby the minority in a legislative arm of government were, because of the sheer force of power as articulated and as machinated by the executive arm of government, they used the police, they used thugs, they used anything that could be usable. A minority faction of the Ogun State House of Assembly then took charge of the legislative business for more than 1 year, an anomaly in all respects. But Otumba Gbenga Daniel was a governor of the PDP, and the police, a national institution, was under the direct control of a PDP president.
Are you saying categorically, if I get you quite clear?
I will take it beyond the parties. I don't want you to truncate this. We have to be methodical, because it's easy to be talking about. Sometimes we don't know that we are talking above our viewers, but they need to understand the fundamentals. Now, in Ekiti, we presently have a very, very anathemic circumstance where 9 members or 8 members or 9 members of the House, minority, clear minority, usurped the powers of the House against 19 members. Indeed, the situation in Ekiti is such that the 19 majority members of the Ekiti House of Assembly, as I'm talking to you now, have not been sleeping in their houses for months now because of, the fear for their lives and safety. Now, we have to see the dystopia. When they were initially chased out illegally, and still what is being orchestrated against them is illegal, when they were initially chased out, they came to Lagos and other APC states, and you know what they did? They filed an action in Lagos because they were they were almost taking it as a fait accompli, but were resorting to using the legal machinery to get a pronouncement against the malady that was happening in the chamber. Immediately, an APC president-elect came into being, and they noticed that the police authorities, in its organically flirtatious manner, was a bit more conciliatory, it was a bit more at this thing. They also resorted to the use of force. They indeed went to Ekiti. They are the new this thing on the block now. Now we still have the madness of Ekiti ongoing. In Enugu, 9 members are now usurping the legislative functions of the chamber of the Enugu House of Assembly. The 9 members are the members that are
on the side of the governor.
I want to be very careful in my use of language.
Let me just hold you for a minute, Golaba. We have to take a short break now. When we come back, we'll touch more on the very rich background you're given on all of these issues. Let's take a commercial break. We'll be back with more. Don't go away.
Introducing Smart Connect, where get plenty awoof to allow you talk, text, and browse nyafu for tin in the money.
Igwe. Say you know say with just 200 naira recharge card, Airtel they serve me with 200% bonus to yarn more with any network.
Now you not call me your fiance.
Relax. In fact, I don't buy your own Airtel SIM.
As correct vessel, anytime I recharge 200 naira and above, Smart Connect they supply me with free internet to browse. If you want to make your family follow you enjoy,
Buy your 4-in-1 family pack for the price of one.
oh baby,
Akuroro. This girl too, na family and friends.
no carry last to buy your Airtel SIM today.
Airtel, the smartphone network.
It is often said that the future belongs to those who believe in the beauty of their dreams. But what about the things in life that actually inspire us to believe? Like the things that drive us, the things that move us, and even the things that remind us that the sky really isn't our limit. Because when we are inspired, we are led to future greatness. But first, we just have to believe.
One day I want to build Nigeria's first aeroplane.
I know. One day you'll make us proud.
Rich and creamy pig, extra fortified with 28 vitamins and minerals. Here's to 60 years of nourishing dreams and inspiring the future. The future is bright. Reach for your peak.
Welcome back. GBOLA is still very much in the house. You were talking about how
I'm
is
trying
greater
to
than
domesticate
14.
it to the facts that are coming, the unfortunate facts that are coming, to us from the Enugu House of Assembly. In the Enugu House of Assembly now, a faction that is in every material particular, ostensibly the minority faction, because it is planned, supportive of the executive governor that controls the pulse. And and that was why I started that the endemic poverty in our society, intellectual and material, is now abusing the dignity, the operational dignity of our constitution, because they are the foot soldiers of the governor in the legislative chambers. They now have the right of free access to the legislative chambers, and the majority have been refused ease of access and operations in each one of these people were voted freely in all the constituencies of Enugu State. So the practical thing of what we are saying now is that we are now perfecting an anomaly. The anomaly we are perfecting is that if you are an executive governor of a state, I'm beginning to even see a picture that if you are an executive chairman of a local government, if you are an executive governor of a state, if you are the president of the nation, you will choose which tenets of the constitution you abide with. You will choose which ruling of a court or courts you abide with. You will cherry pick the people who you think will be, pliant to your political, economic goal within the other arms of government. And I'm beginning to see a picture of a demigod, and it is very dangerous for good governance. That is GBOLA's submission.
Let's look at the peculiarities of the Enugu circumstance. We had a situation where the whole member of the house used to be in support of the governor. You recall that the deputy governor, it was the same house, that also impeached the deputy governor, which was allegedly the request of the state governor at that particular time. They call it the chicken impeachment. It was impeached for running the poultry in the state house.
Look, when that melodramatic, comical impeachment was going on, you had people like us in your studios then. Oh, maybe you were not operational then, because this is a young station. I was on a number of platforms, and I was also accentuating the endemic organic malady, you know, built into that process. Why did they impeach the deputy governor? They alleged that the gross misconduct, we must realize that in an impeachment process, especially of an executive member, of a member of the executive arm of government, the legislative arm in Nigeria is so empowered, especially at the state, with unicameral legislature. It's a bit more cumbersome at the national level with bicameral legislature. Especially at the state, the legislative arm of government has the prerogative to define anything as gross misconduct. What they defined as gross misconduct in Enugu was because the deputy governor had a little poultry at the back of his, in his backyard. And at the same time that poultry, the existence of that poultry, was defined by the Enugu parliamentarians, who were basically doing the dirty work of the governor for him. The substantive governor, who was the machinating agent of that melodrama, did not only have a poultry in his own backyard, he had a piggery. I would suppose that piggery is more. I would suppose that piggery should be more filthy, stench, whatever, than a poultry. He had a piggery and he had a poultry, and that same Enugu, it's a further validation of what I started with, that our endemic culture of poverty, intellectual, material, indeed ideological, indeed, when you have people who only live by what they get, and everything in life turns to a deal, you will be having not only what we are having in Enugu, you'll be having what we are having in Ekiti, and you'll be having what we are having in some states where the controversies don't even break out. I was on a platform this Saturday gone, this last Saturday. I was on a TV platform, like national TV platform like this, with a member of the, a ranking member of the Lagos State House of Assembly. Short of calling names, he also had something to say. I was on a TV platform yesterday with the president of Kako. What's the name of my big brother? This courageous character. He had a lot to say about how states, houses of assembly would in the presence of facts not do the right thing by subjecting the governor to accountability because they are on the same page, as in terms of, I almost said dealership. and it would be an external agency that does not have the requisite machinery to investigate properly all this thing that will be pointing accusing fingers. We are losing our democracy. We want to thank God that these last general elections at least gave us the opportunity, that is the sovereign, the electors, the electorate, gave us the opportunity to wield the big stick against the ultimate executive entity in Nigeria. But what we have is still far, very, very far from the ideal.
We have very limited time, but let's also consider why the 14 lawmakers would have the governor impeached. They talked about him bringing to the House a particular 12 billion naira.
They said he abused the 2014 appropriation bill. Why they would call it appropriation bill was a bit surprising to me when I read it, because it ordinarily should have been appropriation law. They must have passed it, and once it's been passed, they know what they passed. the way the governor implements it is another thing. So, but they said he abused the 2014 appropriation bill. I want to believe the right terminology should be appropriation law, because it must have been subsequent to becoming law after the assent of the governor. That, but they have the oversight. They have the right of oversight to reconcile how that law, as passed by them, was implemented by the executive arm led by the governor, and they may. But I just told you that these were people who once defined running a little poultry behind your. Indeed, the civil service, the only other business that the civil service rule encourages civil servants to undertake is having such agric, either poultry or vegetable this thing, with a view to creating food security in the country. A deputy governor was impeached for that. But those were in the days when, they had a big party, a big party of people who lack conscience, people who only were. Now, the majority are the victims of the. They allege that they said, he also came with a 12 billion.
That was where the trouble actually started.
They said it came, somebody.
The refusal of the
somebody
House
whose tenure is, as we speak, less than 30 days. He came. He submitted for approval to the House a 12 billion
secretariat project
proposal. And they were wondering, 30 days, you are going in 30 days. Why are you? That is their own side of the allegation. It behoves people like you who are in the trade of journalism to get the other side too. The minority faction, when they sat to impeach the speaker and also suspend about 8 members of the majority faction, alleged that the majority in a law that, in a directive that they jointly passed before, that the chairperson of the Enugu State Universal Education Board be suspended, and that the account of that agency be frozen. These ones came now and did a somersault that the person is no longer suspended and the account.
We have to wrap up this segment, but let me quickly take you up on this. Given the track record of experiences we've had across the country, you made mention of Ogun State. It happened in Edo, in Rivers, scattered across the country. You were able to identify impunity of the executive.
The reasons why I decided not to mention Edo and Rivers was not so much because the parallel activities around the maladies that took place in those chambers too were not perturbing enough, but at least in Edo and Rivers, the governors had the majority working for the governors. But the general principle was also not contravened there, and that's the general principle of the malady. That is, members of the legislature being seen to be errand boys of the governor. You cannot serve, like the word of God says, you cannot serve 2 masters together, and even if you want to try, you will not serve the 2 of them well. You cannot be serving the governor for a selfish interest and be serving your people for what they have elected you to do for them.
The challenges are quite evident. You identified impunity on the part of the executive, but what way forward now, as we welcome a new dispensation, if we can put it that way, where we can have a smooth running and a smooth relationship between the executive and the legislature?
If we go into the treaties, and I'm using my word carefully, if we go into the treaties on how to resolve this unfortunate phenomenon, we will take forever.
Just give us one, because we don't have forever.
One is that the police must do its duty and doing its duty in accordance with the law, not in accordance with the dictate of the governor, who we know that the only reason why the governors tend to get the loyalty of the police is because the governor controls the financial pulse of the state. Ordinarily, any police commissioner, most of them are lawyers apart from their first degrees, would know that they are to protect the safety and the good order of a House of Assembly. They know all the members of the House of Assembly. Under no condition should the police be inhibiting one faction from gaining entrance when they know that they are bona fide members of the Assembly at the expense of another faction, and usually they do that against the majority at the expense of the minority who are working for the governors. But you know what, my brother? I think it's about time now that the nascent or the emerging phenomenon of electoral assertiveness that we've seen being wielded against President outgoing President Goodluck Ebele Jonathan be taken down to all the strata of governance. Because perfidy, especially at the level of the state, that very stratum of governance, that tier of governance, the state, perfidy is now defining the operation of governance at the expense of putting up a character as a demigod, who, because he fortunately occupies an office called the office of the governor, at the expense of everybody and anybody in that state. That is dangerous for our democracy. It is bad for good governance.
Well, Oba, thank you very much for joining us today on Core Digest, discussing exhaustively this developing stories.
Thank you very much for the opportunity to be a teacher a little bit.
We'll take a break now. We'll be joined by another policy analyst as we also turn the pages as we get all of this developing stories. Stick around. Don't go away.
Every day, every hour, and every minute, news break in Nigeria. Things happen so fast, it's most times difficult to track and comprehend them. But that's what we do right here on Digit 360. 2015, would you want to come back again?
It's like asking Jesus Christ if he knew he was going to die, will you want to come back as the savior of the world again?
We do not just help you track the stories, we break them down, explore all the angles, analyze the issues so that you can fully comprehend the stories and use them to make the right decisions.
Now watch Core TV News live from anywhere in the world on our website www.coretvnews.com. Click on Live TV on our website and watch us live.
And welcome to Core TV Primetime Days.
To follow us on Twitter, click on Twitter icon on our website. And Facebook, click on the Facebook and YouTube to see all our previous news production. You can also watch us live on YouTube. Click Core TV. Leave a space, then news. Core TV News, a 24-hour news station.